Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Data Science Hangout. So nice to see everybody today. If this is your first time joining us today, I know there was a lot of love for Matt on LinkedIn, so we might have some people here joining for the very first time. Thank you for joining us. This is an open space for the whole data science community to connect and chat about data science leadership, questions you're facing, and getting to learn about what's going on in the world of data science across different industries and companies. So the sessions are recorded and they're shared to the Posit YouTube, as well as our Data Science Hangout site. So you can always go back and rewatch or find helpful resources. Together at the Data Science Hangouts, we're dedicated to creating a welcoming environment for everybody. So we love when you all can participate and we can hear from everyone, no matter your area of work or level of experience too. There's always multiple ways you can ask questions, and not just ask questions, but also provide your perspective. So if there's something you want to jump in and weigh in on, you can jump in by raising your hand on Zoom here. You could put questions or comments into the Zoom chat, and feel free to put a little star next to it if you want me to read it too. I see a lot happening in the chat right now, but I could also call on you to introduce yourselves and add some context too. We also have a Slido link where you can ask questions anonymously, and our team will put that into the chat in just a second here. But with all of that, thanks again for joining. I'm so excited to be joined by my co-host today, Matt Dancho, founder of Business Science. And we were just talking, Matt and I spoke at our studio conference back in July about the Hangouts. We're like, let's get something on the books. And here we finally are. So thanks for joining, Matt. I'd love to have you introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about the work you do. And
yeah. Well, first off, Rachel, thanks so much for having me. We were chatting and we had talked about doing this back in July, which was when the R Studio conference was going on. And like you said, I mean, things have just like flown by, and here we are in November, and this is exciting. I'm excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me. Just to introduce myself, my name is Matt. If you guys haven't ever met me before, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for showing up. I don't know what your background is. It sounds like there might be, beginners, experts, maybe a mix here. So do me a favor. If you're a beginner, can you put like just like a 3 in the chat? Just put the number 3 so I can get a kind of a sense of where we're at. All right. Okay. And if you're an expert, put like a 5 in the chat.
Robert,
all right.
5.
4.5. All right, cool. So we got a good mix of people. So that I like to ask this just so I know, like, kind of how to, before I start like diving into like what I do and everything, just to kind of get like a general consensus on, oh, we got a -5. Just to see where you guys are at skill wise. And the cool thing is, no matter where you're coming from, you're going to learn stuff. We're here, we're open. Like Rachel said, we're open. So feel free to ask questions. A little bit about myself. My name is Matt Dancho. I've been doing R for about, I want to say like 2013 was like officially my moment when I like, yeah, I'm going, full into this thing. Which back then it was just kind of like statistics, or it wasn't even, I don't think, quite called data science. But and I've been I don't know if you guys probably can identify with this. I got bit by the R bug bad. Like I became obsessed, and I just started like learning as much as I possibly could and trying to apply it to my day job at the time, which I was working for a small company called Bonnie Forge. And I was just helping them, handle their customer data, work with the manufacturing team, understand, like back then there was a big drop in oil prices, and the products that we made went into oil. So I was doing like a lot of forecasting and things of that nature. So fast forward to today, in 2018, I kind of got into 2017, 2018, I got into consulting kind of as a side hustle at first, and then it slowly became my full-time job. And then in 2018, I pivoted into education because that's where I really saw a huge demand for, as I was doing a lot of these consulting projects for companies in like the marketing domain or finance domain. It was clear to me that the problem wasn't that they needed a consultant; they really needed education and they needed help. So in 2018, I founded Business Science. That's my company, and since then, I've been building a lot of courses. That's what the first 4 years were, and now we're getting to the point where we're starting to add additional programs and scale up the programs too. So now we have about I think 4,000 or 5,000 students, and in 2018 we started with one. So it's been kind of a wild ride. Are any of you guys students, business science students, on the call today? You can put like a 1 in the chat.
Oh, I see
Javier,
some.
yeah.
It's
All right,
awesome.
sweet, sweet. So what was really cool back at our studio conference, I got to meet a ton of my students. I met I think over 30 students of mine, and it's really cool. I got pictures with them, got to talk with them, got to see them face to face, and I had no clue. Like I didn't even think I was going to run into a single student, and it just it really, it's kind of for me, it's like a humbling moment because I see like business science education is getting out there and it's having an impact, and those are the cool things that I like to see. So all right, that's
Absolutely.
that's a
Yeah.
I probably went a
Oh,
little deeper than what you may have wanted, but what,
sorry, we had a little here. I'm gonna ask our
okay.
studio co-host to help with the mute buttons here. Let's see. There we go. Thanks, everybody. I do see some questions already coming in, Matt, and this is one that I actually was really interested to ask you about as well. Like your journey going from your company to starting your own business. And the question says, Matt, I'm really eager. Could you take us through your journey to becoming a mini celeb in the space? Was it
Oh my
scary to
gosh.
go off and do your own thing?
It was. So kind of give you, so I'll talk a little bit about what was going on. So the tough part for me was giving up a six-figure, like a cushy six-figure job salary, to do something new and take on a risk. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's something that I've always wanted to do, but you never really know kind of when the timing is right. So I had in 2017, I had started slowly kind of, I made the decision to like build my first course, and I didn't know like what it was going to do. I launched it in 2018. I think it was like April or May of 2018, and I got like 50 people in it really quick. So that to me was like a huge signal that there was an actual demand. Was it enough to offset my salary and like feel like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it? No, not at all. So some things happened later throughout that year. In 20 I want to say maybe middle of 2018, so like August of 2018, I ended up making the decision to leave my company, and again give up that cushy job. It was a huge risk at that point, and I remember even throughout that year, I remember in December of that year, I think I only made like $3,000 or $4,000 that month. And this is coming from somebody who was making like a lot, like probably 3 or 4 times that amount every month. And there's definitely some question marks like, am I going to be able to like pull this off? But for me, the things that really helped when I decided to actually like take that step forward was sitting down, looking at the numbers, figuring out what people want, talking to customers, talking to my students at that time, figuring out what their needs were, and then really just giving it my all. I looked at the numbers and I saw that, hey, if we could do, you know, this amount each month, you know, we're going to be able to be fine. We're, you know, my wife, she was still working full time at that point. And, you know, it was just like, all right, that for me was like, okay, in January of 2019, I, you know, I put my head down and just started working and building courses and after reviewing the numbers and got the confidence in myself to really be able to do it. And I just started doing it.
That's great. And something that we've talked about a few times on past weeks of the Hangout is on building your personal brand. And I think that's something that you do a really great job of. I know we originally met on LinkedIn, I think. And
Yep.
I was just curious for people who are like jumping into this space too and looking to build their personal brand. Do you have any tips for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rachel, building your personal brand, and you know this because you've done a fantastic job as well, especially with being part of our studio and Posit. I think you're doing a fantastic job at
Thank
this,
you.
but like everyone can really benefit from building a personal brand. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, trying to get a job, if you're trying to build your own company, if you're, you know, trying to do even just, you know, kind of grow yourself personally and kind of step out of your comfort zone. I think it's really important for everyone to build their own brand. Some tips I can give you. So you're gonna, you know, don't feel like you need to get it perfect. Um, there's a guy that I follow on Twitter. His name is Justin Welsh, and he does a really good job at, like, for people who are trying to like start their own business, how to do your own personal brand. And some of the things, like some of the value that I've gotten from him, talking about your journey, like no matter where you are, just, you know, every day, just going on LinkedIn, or maybe every, you know, make it a point, like 2-3 times a week, just put a post out there of something new that you've learned or something that you're interested in. And it doesn't have to be like a whole production, because this is the mistake that I always made, was I always felt like my copy has to be like super on point, and it needs to be like something I've thought about for like days, or, you know, and while that stuff does work, I think what is more valuable is like being authentic and just kind of showing like, hey, you know, I'm not perfect. I learned something. I'm excited about it. You know, I've learned this new R package. People identify with that, and then you start to grow your followers. And that can lead to new job opportunities. That can lead to, you know, you never know who that connection is going to be. And they may be the person that helps you, because we all need help, right? Um, you know, no matter where you are, you know, you're not going to be, you know, you're not going to be the best version of yourself without getting a little bit of help along the way. And I think using LinkedIn and using Twitter to that, and just posting a little bit about your journey every, you know, doesn't have to be every day, every couple times each week, really, that'll make a huge difference.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I'm starting to see some questions coming into through the chat too. So Jeremy, I see you just asked a question. Do you want to jump in live and ask it? Oh, I see you unmuted, but I'm not sure I can
Sure.
hear you yet.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Hey.
I'm just interested. I do some online teaching and I do a lot of meetings online. I'm still working from home. So I'm just interested in like what technology you use to get the best experience when you're connecting with people remotely, hardware and software, and how do you integrate R into these technologies?
Okay. So great question, Jeremy. The main types of softwares that I use, I mean, Zoom, I do a webinar once every, I was doing it every 2 weeks. Now I'm going to do it every week. But I usually try to do like a webinar, and I try to teach a little bit about R, and certain, you know, topics. Uh, one that I'm actually getting ready to teach is time series. I'm going to be doing that next week. but every week or every couple of weeks, I try to get, on a Zoom webinar with, and it's, I just open it up to everybody because, it's kind of a way to give back. It's something that I'm very interested in, helping people grow their R experience, because I think too, like, oftentimes you see people out there and they just don't know about R, or they may be on like the edge of like, should I do data science? Could I do data science? I'm working in Excel right now. I'm doing Power BI, but like, what else can I be doing to grow my career? So doing a webinar, so Zoom for webinars is fantastic. Trying to think what else. Obviously, I use the R Studio product line, or the Posit product line, but R Studio, the IDE is fantastic. Shiny, I think that is such like a misunderstood technology out there that like people kind of often overlook. So I love showcasing Shiny as a way to like really take R into production, because everyone always talks about like, ML ops and putting things into production. How do you do that with R? Guys, it's right there. It's Shiny. It's fantastic. And let's see, what else? What other technologies do I use? I mean, through my business, I probably touch 30 or 40 different technologies. And we could probably talk all day about those, but do you have anything specific, Jeremy, that you're interested in?
No, I'm just interested in kind of, hearing about how you keep people engaged who've been in meetings all day and then tune in to another Zoom meetup. So
yeah, so okay, this is good, because something I started working with is actually a coach and a marketing guy as well. And that's really helped me in my presentation skills, because in the online age, it's really tough to capture people's engagement. So I don't know how deep, Rachel, you want to go into the art of kind of presentations.
Let's dive
But
in. Whatever
okay,
everybody wants to ask
all right.
about.
If
Yeah.
you guys want to go, I'll go. I mean, so all right. There's when you do a presentation, people are on Zoom calls all day, with COVID and everything. The last thing you want to do is you want to just kind of like get onto a Zoom call and just talk at people for 60 minutes. And that's the last thing that they want to do too, because, they're going to be, after the first 3 minutes, they're going to tune you out, right? So what we started doing on our marketing webinars and on our technical webinars is really just trying to keep the engagement up. So like what I did here with like the 3s and the 5s, that's a way to engage. So you just ask a question to the audience, and oftentimes, that keeps them kind of in there that much longer. Talking. So the way I used to, I have a note on my keyboard: don't be boring. And so I will do like weird stuff, like I'll kind of I've started to like play around with the way that I talk. So I used to kind of like talk just like I would conversationally, but in a webinar, like, you want to talk a little bit differently. You want to actually accentuate, your speech patterns. So like if you have kind of a long sentence, I'm talking about our studio, how great it is, and I want to make sure that you get the most important information today, that these are the 3 things I want you to walk away with. So I play around with my speech a little bit. That those inflection points will keep people interested, and also starting everything with a big promise, like, hey, why are you here today? Like, what are you going to get out of it? So I started doing like this big promise at the beginning of my webinars, and I just started saying, like, hey, I'm going to teach you like one thing today. If you don't walk away from this presentation with anything else, this is what you're going to do today. And like for my time series presentation, or for like I just did one on text analysis. It was one skill that they're going to learn that is really going to like allow them to improve their model performance and potentially save their company up to $1 million. So something big that they're going to walk away and they're going to see at the end how we accomplish that. And I think you do a couple of those things, and you're going to see that your Zoom calls, your webinars that you're on, especially if you're training data scientists, like some of that stuff can get dull pretty quickly. And I often think that the more that they can identify with you as the person, so I'll mix in a little bit of my story, usually in the beginning of my talks. And I feel like that, especially for new people that aren't, accustomed to you yet, I think that makes a big difference. So that was a good question.
Yeah,
That's
great
great.
question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's really helpful, Matt, too. I've been thinking a lot about a lot of the communities that people build within their own companies too, and getting people engaged and interested in those. That's a really helpful snippet for us.
Yeah, and I think case studies too, like people often in companies, like what I saw is, even though you're on the same team, a lot of times you don't see what they're doing. So sharing just a case study or an example of how you're using R in that company can oftentimes help grow R within, inside the walls, because you might be in the marketing group, but the manufacturing group may have a similar situation that they don't even know that it can help them. So yeah,
Absolutely.
share, tell stories, talk about your case studies, all that's really good stuff.
Marlene, I see you asked a question in the chat. Do you want to jump in?
Sure. Hey, Matt. Good morning or afternoon. I don't even know what time zone people are in.
I'm in Key West right now, so yeah, I'm East Coast time zone. It is just noon, just hit noon. So
okay.
Nice to see you, Marlene.
We just had the time shift, so I'm super discombobulated. People on the call who are me. My question was around starting to kind of socialize data sharing. And it's a struggle for certain organizations, right? And I'm just wondering if you handle that a bit as a consultant. Like, I mean, obviously you deal a lot with the real hands-on data work, but how do you start to address or like I said, socialize the concept of breaking down some silos and barriers to data sharing? I don't know if you can just say, hey, it's as easy as RStudio Connect or whatever you recommend, or I don't know. How do you kind of start having that conversation?
So I'm a big fan of including as many stakeholders throughout the project as possible. So a typical example might be like if I was doing a consulting project with like one of the companies I worked with back in the day, like S&P Global, MRM McCann, they're a big marketing firm. S&P Global, they're in the finance. So what I'll do, like I normally have a point of contact there that I'm working with, but what I'll try and do is, as we come up with the project, discovery phase, I'll ask a lot of questions like, what are your pain points? How does this affect your organization? Like really try to like go a couple layers deep with them. And what ends up happening is they'll be like, oh yeah, well this affects this part of the company. I was like, well, should we involve them in the conversation? And they're like, yeah, it's probably not a bad idea. So you start like kind of building a group of people, and then once you get them all kind of filled in on what you guys are trying to do, that often just helps break down the silos, and they can kind of understand and talk in an open forum where everyone's equal, and just really try to like understand this, whatever that problem is. Because most of the time the data science team, you're kind of acting like a consultant. A lot of times, my impression of is they're almost doing like a consulting capacity inside of an organization. So the toughest part is to like be able to get everyone comfortable so that number one, they give you access to data, but number two, just get them talking and communicating, so that way you really can, break down those, like, I don't know if they're like kind of like silos or barriers, whatever you want to call it, but you got to break those down so everyone's talking, and then that's going to make them more comfortable for sure.
Got it. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a struggle, and you hit the nail right on the head. And operating on a kind of like a consultancy, that's what I feel like. I am running around to we're a family of companies, 6
Mhm.
companies. So I'm going to each of the companies saying, what's top of the priority list? What are you trying to automate and or
Sure.
work toward? I'm on a 5 or 6 year plan to get us into machine learning. So it's gonna be a
Gotcha.
long still, but I
What
appreciate it.
what company do you work with, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. I work for Western Growers. We're a trade association for
Mhm.
specialty crops growers. So not corn and
Okay.
not any of those. So basically, if you enjoy leafy greens, anybody on the call, we take care of the growers that bring leafy greens all over the country. 90% of your leafy
Nice.
greens are in California. Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
growers.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's not going to happen overnight. So I'm glad you guys have like a actual plan that you guys are working to. Although you might be surprised, you can get it done probably faster than 5 years, depending on how large your organization is and how much of that, what do they call it? Corporate inertia, so to speak. But yeah, and the technology will play a big role too. So you mentioned RStudio Connect. I think that's a fantastic product. I think, just getting quick wins, like anytime you can get like something simple, quick out there, that's going to gain their confidence in you and your ability to manage that project. And I think that's going to help you grow your net, the net that you're trying to cast. So that's what I recommend. Yeah, go for quick wins. Get them all in meetings, communicate, make sure you go a couple levels deep with them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dominate the call because there are a lot of other questions, but there's a lot going on here that I'm just throwing tons of irons in the fire and trying to build some traction here and definitely going for easy wins. So thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yep, you got it. You got it. No problem.
I'm seeing lots of love for both shiny and leafy greens in the chat right now. Alan, I see you asked a question. You want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Matt. I'm really, really curious about the sort of identity of the company, as you call it, business science, and wanted to get you to maybe speak to that a little bit more. I read it as being intentionally specific about the embeddedness of data work in organizations and towards focused business problem solving, and a little bit different from a lot of the positioning of data science learning as like, hardcore data science. And I wonder if that's true. And if so, how do you kind of like, what does that mean for the way you design your courses, for the way you sort of, pitch what the company does for people, and that sort of thing? Like, how is that a kind of day-to-day part of the identity of the company?
Right. No, that's a good question, Alan. And I'm really glad you brought that up. So the identity of my company, Business Science, has actually evolved over time. Initially, I was just trying to combine business and data science in a way, and I'm a very kind of like, I want it to be obvious, what the naming of the company. I'm not like a company like Apple where I'm gonna like, call myself Apple, and then it's going to be a technology company that builds phones and computers and those sorts of things and all the other stuff that they do now. So I wanted to like, that's originally why I called it business science. And again, my roots were in consulting. So I was actually applying data science to business. And that's really was the crux of what I was trying to go after. And when I was coming up with the training initially, that's really what I wanted to, emphasize as like a business forward or a business first type of way of learning data science. Now, with that said, things have changed a lot in the past 4 years or 5 years that I've been running this thing. And I will say this, like, seriously, I actually view, and we can get like at a like a really deep level of conversation on this, but I really view that data scientists and like data analysts, I think that there's going to be a new role here in the next couple of years that companies are going to start adopting the role of the business scientist, because you already have a business analyst. And I haven't really talked a whole lot about this yet, but like the more I think about it, the problem and the challenge with data science and why companies often like fail with data science, it's not because they don't have good people or they don't have problem solvers or this or that, but they lose sight of the business first mentality, where you need to be able to start with a problem in an organization, be able to work with many different levels of the organization, from executives to line managers to people who are doing the work. And you have to work cross-functionally and cross-sectionally throughout the company. And that to me requires like a heavy business acumen, like not just like, hey, I know data and I know a few algorithms that I can throw at the data. Like, no, that's not how it goes. Like, the most successful people that I've seen are the ones that are able to communicate effectively, that know what the target is of the organization, the objectives, and they can translate that into like all the different, they can kind of take that down and translate it across the organization. So I view, the more and more that I think about this, I really view that there's probably in the next couple of years, you're going to start seeing like actual roles on like within companies, like on Indeed, for the business scientists. And I'm going to start promoting that here actually. Start probably in 2023, you'll see more of me talking about that. So good question.
That's great. Thanks. I love hearing that evolution and the way that what you're seeing in the industry and in companies is informing how your thinking moves, and really resonates everything you're saying about being tightly connected, about the work matters because it's solving problems that people need us to solve. Yeah, really cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for that question, Alan.
Yeah, thank you. And Melissa, I see. Oh.
that was my daughter Shay. She's just came in to say hi. Here, I'm gonna shut the door real quick.
No worries.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey, yes, I was gonna say jump in there next, Melissa. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, so it's funny, Eugene just made a comment that's along the same lines of where I'm thinking. So my team at Peloton just got a new VP, and one of the very first things that he began talking about is product management within our team, which is kind of shifting us away from this project management based style of intake and like prioritization to strictly like aligning ourselves with stakeholders. So wanted to ask you, Matt, how that's played out in your organization. How do you prioritize? How do you like share responsibilities across your team? Like, what's your org chart? Do you have product managers? How do they interact with your developers? Like, just trying to get a sense of how it works. How do you run your shop, basically?
Yeah. So Business Science is a small company. We are up to 7 or 8 now, but mainly, compared to probably Peloton, which has a lot more than 8 people. So in my shop, I wear a lot of hats. My wife, she's working, working with like businesses, actual companies, also working like with customer service and finance. So we have like everyone, at Business Science, we all wear a lot of different hats. We do have some role players. We've got people that are marketing. I've consultants that I've actually hired out too, that are, helping me with different products that we're getting ready to launch or have launched already. We now have a sales team, but that's kind of like the extent of it. As I'm growing in this capacity, and this is really new to me, because a year ago we were 3 people at this time. It was me, my wife, and then I just had hired my first like official marketing guy. His name's Mike. So Mike joined the team, and then fast forward a year later, and now we're at 7. So we're starting to grow a little bit faster now. But what I've seen is, from me personally, the challenges are way different, because being a course creator, it's more technical in nature. I'm thinking about like, what does the student need to learn? How do I package this into a product that's going to, effectively walk them through all the major things, but still be like business forward and get them the early win, and take them through a whole business project. But now while I'm still creating courses, actually some of that has slowed down. And now what I'm emphasizing more in my role is leadership. So leadership is something that anybody can learn. It's definitely a learnable skill, and it starts with caring. So this is the funny thing. I've started to actually call people up and just let them know that I care about them and talk with them, on a personal level, like, hey, where are you trying to go in your life? What are you trying to do? And how can business science best help you get there? And I think that's something that's maybe a little weird. Could be a little weird at first, but it's something unique that I do that has really helped me kind of identify with people and really get to understand them more. And when I show them okay, this is how business science can help you grow if you're trying to become a better data scientist, and also working for my company. How does that relate to what you're doing at Peloton? There's definitely, we can all get better at leadership. And I think that's really when you're working at, even if you're as a project manager, where you aren't necessarily overseeing people, but you do effectively have to get them to do things in order to help you do the project, right? So, just having that level of kind of leading by example, and getting to know the person, showing them how your project is going to help them do better with whatever their goals are, and how it's going to help them make things easier, make it easier for them, or increase their status in the company. Like simple things, and it doesn't have to be people think people are motivated by money all the time. That's a load of bull. What people are really motivated by, honestly, is things simple things like recognition. If they're going to be part of the team and this thing's a success, I'm going to recognize you, and I want you to know that going into this, you're going to be up there with the whole team, and we're gonna showcase everything that went into this project. And simple things like that can actually, especially if you're a project manager, can really help. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's my 2 cents at least.
Yeah, definitely. All those things ring true and relevant to my situation here. So thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you, Matt. Juan, I see you asked a great question in the chat a bit earlier. If you're still on, would you want to jump in and ask that? And I can, I think you unmuted. There you are. Hey.
Hi. Well, now I was wondering, how do you get over the imposter syndrome? I've been working with data since sociologist 20 years ago, but with R full-time since 2015, 16. But I don't consider myself a data scientist or a data analyst, even though I'm a sociologist with political science. I work with electoral data, public opinion data, Twitter data, but I don't know how to get that step to consider myself a data scientist. Thank you, Matt.
So Juan, this is a great one. So I would venture to say you're not alone. Just a show of hands, anybody else experience imposter syndrome at any point in your career? Just put a 6 in the chat. Put a 6. We'll do a 6. All right. So Juan, you're seeing the chat, right? Yes. Lots of people are having imposter syndrome too. So that's the first thing. I would say probably 90% of data scientists experience some level of imposter syndrome. It's very common. I experienced it. I'll share with you my story and kind of some of the things that I did to get over it. But my problem was, so I'm a data scientist, self-trained. I never went to school for data science. I was a mechanical engineer. I've worked in the valve industry, mainly doing actually design work and maintenance efforts, and then kind of managing actual team of engineers that did that built valves basically. I eventually got into the sales group because they liked what I was doing managerially with that engineering group. So I got some additional responsibility, and I started to, you know, kind of work my way up in the organization. But I started learning data science, and it wasn't easy. Like it was far from it. Honestly, it took me probably at least 4 or 5 years to think of myself as an actual data scientist. And there were some days when I was going through it, and I remember like trying to make reports and just like nothing's coming together. I'm drawing blanks. I'm just staring at the screen, like the cursor's blinking at me, and I'm just like, Matt, pull it together. Like, you know, what the heck's wrong? But so like people go through that, and I venture to say like at least, you know, 9 out of 10 data scientists, right? I mean, it's pretty common. So things that can help, things that help me, don't give up. Like every day is a new day. So try and write at least 1 line of code a day. That was something that I implemented in my own personal journey. And I did that for like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years straight. And that single activity of like saying like, hey, I got to pull up RStudio. I got to start, you know, I just got to put 1 line of code in there. And you know what's going to happen? It's a mental thing, because you're going to write more than 1 line of code. Like who's going to stop at 1 line of code, right? I mean, it takes you, you know. So anyways, I started doing that. I started being consistent with my habits. I started really like doubling down on some of the things that I was learning, like ggplot, just getting visualizations. Those are quick wins. Once I learned ggplot, I could then start telling stories to my management team. And that was, you know, something that like nobody else in my company was doing. So I started focusing on things like that weren't like necessarily overly complex, like machine learning or anything like that. I kind of set some of that stuff aside and really focused on the foundational things. I got really good with data wrangling. That was another area where like people in my company had tough times when there was, you know, especially in a SQL database where you've got like, you know, a jillion tables, which ones do you pull in? So I learned like one table, like the customer table. I learned the transactions table. I learned how to connect the two and start to blend the data. And this is stuff that like people had a really tough time with in my company. And it was something that differentiated me. And again, just a quick win. You start to learn, you know, a handful of dplyr functions like group by and summarize. I mean, how often is that like exactly the 1-2 punch that your boss needs in order to be able to gain insights? So, you know, I really focused on some of those. I had a problem. One of my biggest mistakes is I would get on LinkedIn, and honestly, I would see everyone talking about deep learning. This was back 2016. You know, they would be talking about TensorFlow, Keras. That for me was a huge black hole. I got very limited value out of that stuff. I actually, true story, I built a regression model for my company that ended up, like honestly, no joke, helping me take the part of the company that I was overseeing from about 3 million to 15 million in revenue. And it was a small part of the company because the company made about like 500 million a year in revenue. So this is like a kind of a drop in the bucket, but like that, you know, my boss saw that, and my boss's boss saw that, and they're like, "Oh, wow, this is really, you know, pretty impressive what you're doing." I implemented a lead scoring algorithm that literally was just a logistic regression. Now, true story, I was getting good results with that, so I was like, "Oh, this deep learning stuff, this is pretty cool, right?" You know, I was thinking to myself, I was seeing like what people were doing online with it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can do image classification, I can do this and that." So I hauled off, and I was like, all right, I'm going to learn deep learning, at least the basics, and I'm going to like try to apply it to this lead scoring problem. And I spent probably 6 months on that, and I got nothing out of it. My logistic regression model was better. Just trying to like understand TensorFlow, and then realizing TensorFlow is too complicated. So then I'm going to switch to Keras, and then somebody's talking about PyTorch. I can't even remember PyTorch was out back then. But it's just the process of like seeing all of these like I call them red herrings. Like they're these shiny objects out there that are trying to like steal your attention, and it's taking you away from like the thing that you're that's actually getting you the value. So data wrangling, ggplot, work on those, get the foundations, get the basics done, and get the quick wins, and then kind of work your way up as you go. Then machine learning ended up being really powerful for me, and some other stuff. So hope that helps.
Thank you, Matt, for doing the numbers thing too, because I think it's always helpful to just see how many other people are feeling that as well.
Yep. No, that's imposter syndrome is a big one. Even my students, a lot of them, that's sometimes the reason that can be like honestly the sole reason that they jump into my program, is because whatever they're taking, they it's just not getting them through. They always feel like for 2 steps forward, they're taking 1 step backwards. So you hate to see that, and that's something I'm on a mission to help my students at least get through that.
Definitely. Siavash, I see you had your hand raised too.
And I know Siavash. How's it going, man?
Hi, Matt. I'm a student and proud student. I'm really enjoying the time series course.
Great.
I already thought that it was like I'm already doing a lot of time series, so it's going to be a quick course, but it's like a lot of functions that I struggled, and I spent a lot of time to just write them. It's like some of these helper functions make my life much easier, and I'm still not throughout the course, so I appreciate that. My question is, what is the next big thing in business science? I'm very looking forward what you're working on and when it will be coming.
So I'm working on 2 big things right now. The first one is actually a program that combines. So for those of you who don't know how business science is structured, I have a core product which is called the 5-course R track. The time series course that Siavash is taking is the 3rd course in that system, and it's basically designed to kind of take you from wherever you are now to being super productive, being able to outcompete all of your competition if you're trying to get a job, or if you already have a job and you're trying to apply data science, give you all the skills necessary, things like Shiny, things like the data wrangling, the visualization, time series, which was a huge win for me when I was working back in the day for Bonnie Forge. But the next big thing is to kind of take that system and add on an additional course to it, but also so the course, the additional course is to help get you a data science job in 30 days. And then the whole package is designed to also add in a coach, a personalized coach that takes you through the entire program in under 180 days, along with a whole group that goes through the process with you. So one of the big hurdles that I was finding is that, some people like Siavash, like you're highly self-motivated and you're crushing the courses, but these courses, I mean, they're pretty dense because they go deep into like how to solve the business problems and get you, and that's where you get the value out of it. But it's very easy for life to, or like, a curveball to come and to get sidetracked, and then, staying motivated. So we want to have a coach that helps take you through that whole process. Somebody and it's designed for people who want to get data science positions. So that way, whether they want to get a senior data science position, through the beta program, I've already had one student get a job at Air Canada. She got it in 4 months using this program. Another student, she's 22 years old. Her name's Hobby. I actually hired her on as my next coach. because she is so fantastically good at getting a data science interview. It's disgustingly scary, but she has like all the tricks in the book, and she knows how to take that the curriculum. She, like, you guys have to hear this. She had no prior data science experience, like working as a data scientist. She had no prior working experience other than she used to sell wine for her dad's business. Her dad owned a company that distributed wine. So she was able to, in 7 months with this program, be able to get her first data science job. She just landed it here about 2 weeks ago at the Federal Reserve in Minnesota. So Minneapolis, Minnesota. So she crushed it, and I had to hire her on because she had everything stacked against her. No working experience prior to that. So that's the first thing that I'm working on. We're getting ready to productionalize that because I have to have a sales team to help sell that. It's a higher ticket product because of the coaching aspect, but the results that it gets are amazing. So to productionalize that just takes a little bit more work. So we're probably going to be launching that here in January. And then the other thing that I have in beta right now is I'm leveraging, I always seek my past for guidance. And one of the things I'm doing right now is with consulting, teaching people who are dangerous with R to learn how to turn that into a business, whether it's a side hustle or actually creating a scalable business model that, I'm teaching them how to do things like find their niche, how to develop an offer that there's market demand for already out there, how to create a business, and how to basically do everything from to generate leads to building out a sales presentation and selling clients. And the goal is to land $25,000 plus data science projects, and then to be able to scale that, so that way what they do, their first client pays them to build it, and then their next client, they shrink the time because they've already got most of the code written already, and they can reproduce it, and it becomes a scalable business model. So that's the next project I'm working on right now. I have 9 students in that beta program, and we're just through the first week of it right now, but it's going really well so far. So cross my fingers. I'm hoping to launch that probably mid next year.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Matt, I know you have a hard stop at the top of the hour with kids running in on vacation too. So I want to make sure to get to a few other questions. But I know, Frank, you asked one in the chat a bit earlier. I was trying to scroll up and find it. You want to ask live here?
I can go quick. So Matt, thinking about your classes, remembering back to when I was taking them, and then you were talking about the webinars and some of the techniques that you learned and you used to keep people on the call through the whole webinar. It made me wonder about some of the analytics behind people taking the courses, and if there's anything that you learn there about how data people either like to learn or how they learn, and how you use that to change how you create courses. One of the things that pops to mind is, what is the data science topic that we 2x playback speed through the most frequently? So anything like that.
So I find learners are either 2x learners, 1.5x learners, or 1x learners. So no matter what, once they get the hang of how to do 2x, it's like you never go back, right? I do at least 1.5x on all of my YouTube videos. That's how I crush through a lot of content a lot of times. And I find that a lot of learners, when it comes to analyzing how they learn, so one of the biggest metrics that I started out with was understanding if my courses were better than the rest in the market. So I pride myself on, as a kind of an online format, it is insanely tough to even get people to take your course, right? So couple of things we do differently. I think the Slack channel with the support, getting the support as soon as they have a problem, they can hop in there, get in, ask any question, no questions off the table, and really get feedback at the speed of learning. I think that's incredibly important. When I implemented that, that really helped kind of take my completion rates up. Now, the other thing, so having a community like that really helped. Keeping videos small, I think that's super critical. So there's this thing, I can't remember the name of the curve, but people learn kind of in a, it's like a U-shaped curve. So if you do like an hour webinar, people only remember the first part of it and the end of it. Like in the middle, their chances of remembering that is like 3 to 5%. But at the beginning and end, so if you can shrink that time down, and one of the things I did was I tried to keep no video longer than 5 minutes. So you're gonna at least remember the beginning and end of each of those videos. And then it's also gonna be like M&Ms. You're just gonna pop one after the other, right? Rather than having to, eat a whole big like pile at once, right? So those are some of the things that I started implementing that really I saw move the needle for my program. A lot of other stuff that we do differently, starting off with a business problem first. I think that's super critical. Getting them a quick win, showing them like a jump start, like not a full analysis, but a bite-sized analysis, so they can begin with the end in mind. They can kind of see and visualize how this course is going to play out and how that value is going to stack. And then by the end of it, they're like, beyond thrilled because they saw just at the beginning, what they're going to accomplish.
That's funny about the jumpstart. I felt like I had learned the whole class after the jumpstart. I got my value.
And then it's just fitting in the pieces and going just a little bit deeper with some of the concepts. Yeah. So once you get through the jumpstart, like you already know where you're going. It's just how do I get there, and then get a lot of it's muscle memory, like repetition with some of those functions, and just really kind of like understanding how people learn. In terms of data science, I don't do a whole lot of data science on analytics on like actually the learning journey. I do more analytics now. One of the big things that really helped me was understanding as my email list has grown, that everybody is not necessarily like, one size fits all, hit them with the R track. They're, a portion of them are going to buy. And yes, certainly that's true, but we're starting now to get segments that like are very new, and maybe they just need like a beginner, or maybe they want a book at first to like kind of warm them up to me, rather than, and certainly some people are ready to jump into like the R track. And that's what I normally sell, especially if they are on a webinar. I'm going to, present that offer to them, because normally if they're investing like an hour plus time, they're pretty committed at that point. But some people, especially if they're just like teetering on like the edge of like, what is data science? Is it right for me? That's a different product. That's like a book. So we got to like start to understand our customers, where they're at in their own learning journey, and present the right offer at the right time in order to be able to help them through that process.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today. I know we're getting right to the top of the hour and you have to run, but there's a few questions that went unanswered. Is it okay if I send those over to you maybe on LinkedIn? And
yeah.
Okay.
So full disclosure, guys, I'm down here with my family in Key West, Florida. We're trying to enjoy. We got a flight at 5 o'clock, so I'm trying to enjoy the last little bit of pool time I'm gonna have with my kids. Yeah, definitely, Rachel, send me those questions over. We'll get them answered. I'll do that promptly. Hopefully by tomorrow or the weekend, I'll get them back to you. And
wait till next week. You go go run to the pool time right now. Don't worry about
all right.
the other questions. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us and for all the great questions.
Yeah, it was so great being on here, guys. Honestly, Rachel, it's an honor for you to invite me on here. And whatever you guys are doing, just know that you're on the right path here with data science. It's really going to help you. It helped my career. I know it's going to help you guys too.